Hi, I just wanted, I help organize the group Women in Agile Twin Cities, and we've got an upcoming event on February 24th that's kind of like show and tell, but we're calling it share and learn. It's a zero prep, low stress micro presentation practice. Women in Agile is open to people of all genders. You're all welcome to join and to attend. If you attend, we ask that you think of something, anything that is remotely Agile related. It doesn't have to be branded Agile, but something that you've learned recently, something that you do, that you're excited about, that works for you, anything like that. Take 5 to 10 minutes ahead of time to think about what you're going to say, and then we'll each have about 5 minutes to share. So we'll all get some speaking practice, we'll all learn something, and we'll all get a chance to connect. It does tend to be smaller groups, so that can be really nice. So hope you'll all join, and I'm gonna post a link in the chat. Thank you, Cheryl, I appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, Sharon.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks for that. I'll just get into the intros and then we'll see if others are going to join. We had certainly a number of RSVPs that just haven't joined yet, but we'll get going here. So I just want to say thank you for joining. Either, if you've been with us before or you're brand new, we just always welcome attendees at our meetup. So I always usually give like a little quick intro on our group. So many of you have probably heard this because you've been here before. But we really have we're trying to continue to build out this community and continue to keep things fresh and interesting and to help people grow. So we're more centered on being a community that is agile, and being agile. It doesn't matter what kind of a practitioner you are, if you're a practitioner at all, that we just welcome you to come to our group and focus on people and being agile and on topics that you all think are interesting and that will make you continue to come back. So give us feedback on the types of things that we've had so far in the last 13 months and things that are coming up in the future. So we've got several months figured out right now. The next month is on learner-focused facilitation, and so that event is already on our meetup site. So after this, check it out and feel free to sign up for that one as well. Should be really good. They're going to show us. It's going to be Angie Agresto and Karen Bruns, both of them very, very engaging facilitators and trainers. They're going to show us why we need to change how we teach and train the facilitator process and how best to engage learners. So check that out. And I also want to do a quick congrats to those people whose names were drawn last month for our branded journals. So I don't see everyone here, but I do want to share that it was Sarah from Burnsville, Minnesota, Jubin from Aurora, Illinois, Andrea from Columbia Heights, Minnesota, Brad, you're here, from Rush City, Val from Richmond, Texas, Harry from Aurora, Ontario, expensive postage to even book rate to Ontario, Sue from Maple Grove, and Jamie from Minnetrista. And then there's 3 people whose addresses I'm still waiting on. So Jim M, Dave W, and Vlad. Vlad has declined to receive a journal, but he has no choice. So he needs to connect with me. And so also a big thank you to Improving for sponsoring the purchase of our branded journal. So it was really great of them to do that. So I want to say, as you can see, Michael Wallace is our presenter this evening. I'm like really happy to introduce him. He's an author, an instructor, a coach. He draws on years of experience as a leader in a variety of roles. So I've really been fortunate to have Michael as the instructor in a number of professional Scrum classes through scrum.org. Those classes are engaging. I think he's engaging. He's fun. And personally, I mean, he's one of those people that at least he feels comfortable enough to come up behind me and like grab me and scare me over breakfast with Chris Wicked. So that was fun. He really has truly prepared me to take the exams that are associated with these classes that he has given. So I appreciate that very much. In one of the classes that I took, it was a Agile leadership class. And he really piqued my interest with suggestions on how to address an obstacle that I faced that had just really been bothering me for a couple of years, which is like, well, Cheryl, you're not very good at getting rid of obstacles if it's been that long. But there were like 14 years with the company before me. So I guess I'm just part of the inability to reduce obstacles. So anyway, he piqued my interest and gave me suggestions for what I was facing. And I went, oh, that's really cool. And then shortly thereafter, I was able to take this evidence-based management class, which really provided me more information and more practice on how to actually articulate what I was trying to do with the business where I'm currently consulting. So I think that's great that he was able to lead me in the right direction. And I am sure that he will lead you guys as well. It was really, truly one of the best classes that I have taken. And it's part of just being at that place in time where I am that I felt like this just hit the spot. So I hope that all of you guys will get the same out of this session that will lead you to maybe taking a class or maybe experimenting as well with evidence-based management. So this session is going to be interactive. It will include discussion time in breakout rooms. This is to deepen your experience and your understanding of EBM and to work with your colleagues here as part of the community, which is really cool too. And then there will be additional time for questions. So don't worry about that. If you want to stay on as well, we can socialize a bit at the end. So anyway, that's what I have to say. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Michael Wallace.
Thanks, Cheryl. What Cheryl forgot to say was when I scared her, it was in Vegas. And in Vegas, I lost a bet, and that's how I'm here teaching. But no. No, Chris and Cheryl and I went to Improving had a company outing. They have a get together every year, and we were in Vegas, and we got to talking about this, and more than happy to be here. What I've done, there's a link in the chat. If you haven't clicked on it already, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat again, just to make sure. But I do everything in Mural, and so when I teach the classes, so everything will be in this Mural. So please tweak or click the link and make sure you can get into Mural, and let us know if you're having any issues, because most of what I say may not make sense if you can't see the Mural. So I'll give everyone just a second. I do see there is quite a few people in the Mural already, so please raise your hand if you're having any issues, and we'll make this Mural available. I can make a PDF, Cheryl,
Okay,
that you can share with folks that might be watching the recording,
cool.
and so they can follow along that way. So I don't see any hands up, so I'll assume we're all in the Mural. So the first thing I'd like to do, if you look over to the right-hand side of the Mural, you'll see an outline, and I'm going to unhide the first item on the outline called incentives. And if you'll click on that, you should see a comic that I'd like you to read. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to actually summon everybody to where I'm at, just to make sure we're all in the right place. But I'd like you to take a second to read this comic. It's probably one you've seen before. It's been around a long time, but it really says a lot about measurement and maybe not so great measurements. So the pointy-haired boss wants to tells the development team that if our goal is to write bug-free software, I'll pay you $10 bonus for every bug you find and fix. The developers are really excited about that. And of course, Wally announces that he's going to write himself a new minivan this afternoon and is very excited. So if we look at question 1, what was the goal of the pointy-haired boss? So what is the goal that the pointy-haired boss had in mind when he came up with this incentive? It says it right there in the first panel. Our goal is what?
And I see that Maru put in, he's pursuing a metric in the chat.
Bug-free software.
Yeah, he wants bug-free software. Yeah, there is a way to hide other people's cursors. If you find your icon, it should be the one next, probably the one next to my picture. You should be able to, you'll see a menu pop up and you should be able to hide or don't show me cursors. So if the cursors are driving you crazy, you can do that.
Michael, if we want to have the screen and the recording, one of us will have to share.
I'm sorry?
If we want to have the what you're showing in Mural show on the recording, I think one of us will have to share.
Oh, okay, if we have to do that, sure. It just makes everybody, I can't see everybody's the only problem, but.
Well, let me see if I can share, and then hopefully you'll still be able to see more people.
Okay. Yeah, I can still see most of everyone.
Great.
Okay, so the goal of the Pointy Haired Boss was to, he wanted to have bug-free software. Question 2, what was the measure and what were the incentives? So what was the measure he was going to use? There's something he was going to count, something he was going to keep track of.
Bugs.
Bugs, yeah. He's gonna measure the bugs. And then what was the incentive?
$10.
Yeah, $10 per bug. Sounds like a good deal. Let's go to question 3. What behaviors was he hoping would result? What do you think he was hoping would happen with this incentive and this metric?
People would go in and fix all the bugs that are in there.
Yeah, they would fix bugs that were already there. Yeah, sure. Will the actual resulting behaviors, though, achieve his goal? So based on how the team reacted and especially how Wally reacted, do you think he's going to get the behaviors that he was hoping to get?
No.
No, not even close. Wally's going to write himself a new minivan. So that's telling me he's going to go create a bunch of new bugs so that he can go ahead and fix them. Probably not what the boss had in mind. So my question to you, have you seen similar situations in your professional life or maybe personal life where there was an incentive that didn't have the intended effect? Does anyone have one they would like to share?
I actually have one from years ago. I was working in application support, and I was actually meeting with another team to find out what they did. And so I was sitting at somebody's desk with them, and they said, okay, the first thing we do when we get an incident ticket is mark it as recovered. And then we contact the person and we figure out what their problem is. So they had a metric that said that they needed to reach out to 95% of the people within a certain amount of time or have their ticket recovered. So the first thing they did, therefore, was mark the ticket as recovered before they ever did anything else.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very easy to have unintended consequences when you create these kind of metrics. There's a story about in British India where they wanted to cut down on the number of cobras. So they put a bounty on cobra tails. For every cobra tail you turned in, you would get some money. And so people started raising cobras to be able to cash in for the bounty. When the authorities found out that was happening, they did what they thought was a logical thing and said, well, we're going to quit paying because it's obviously not working. And then the people that were raising the cobras just released them all at once. And now they had even more cobras than what they started with. So yeah, it's a tricky situation. So let's go to number 7. So we're going to do a voting exercise here in Mural. So here in a second, I'm going to open up a voting session. And then I want you to think about what is your experience in how goals, behaviors, and measures are related in your personal or professional life? So thinking about goals, behaviors, and measures, what has been your experience? If it's not been very good, if it's been terrible, if it's disconnected, they're disconnected from each other, like the pointy-haired bosses was. If they've been weaponized in some way, then you'd select number one. If you had really good experience, where they've been encouraging and supportive, the metrics really helped you do a better job, you would select 5. And then, of course, if your experience has been in between, pick 2 through 4. So let me, somebody put a bomb on number 1, but let me create a voting session here for us to do this. So get it set up, just take a second. And we're going to, each person will get 1 vote. We will vote just in the stickies in this area. And you can go ahead and start. So I can't see how you voted, but I can see who hasn't voted yet. I still see quite a few. So if you could take a look and place your vote.
I'm having a little trouble. Should it just click and then show a vote?
If you click on one of the stickies, it should, yeah.
It doesn't work for me, Mike.
It's not working for me,
There.
sadly.
No, I had to click on the words, not on the sticky.
Oh.
Well, it's supposed to be on the stickies.
Yeah, it didn't work for me on the stickers. I had to double click on the text.
All right, let me try again. Because I swear I selected stickies, but maybe I didn't. Let me clear this out. So I'm going to start a voting session. I know what I see what I did. I unselected sticky notes instead of, they just changed the interface here just recently, and it's been challenging. Okay, that should work. Sorry about that. That was my bad.
All right, that worked.
Yeah, sorry about that. I only do this like every week, so.
Do you like this? Do you like this tool? I've seen a lot of people using Miro lately.
Yeah, it's fine. I've used Miro, and then when I was doing a lot of coaching, I used Miro quite a bit.
Right.
I like both of them, but when the pandemic hit, Miro's licensing plan was much more conducive to training. And so a lot of trainers went to Miro. That's since changed, but there's no easy way to convert your Miros to Miro if you wanted to. So, but it works great. All right, so I'm going to end the session. And when I end the session, you'll see a grayed out screen. If you'll hit that X in the upper right, and we can then look across. And so we have one person who's had great experience with metrics, and that's fantastic. Several that have pretty good experience, but a lot of folks that have had some pretty bad experience. And usually we see more votes over to the left than to the right when we teach the class. So let's take a look now. So now that we voted, those of you that had issues or problems with metrics in the past, or with goals and behaviors and measures in the past, do you think some of those problems might have been related to the metrics and goals that were set up?
I mean, they're kind of dictated sometimes by the department.
Yeah. So they hadn't maybe thought through the metrics and hadn't thought through what kind of behaviors they might actually drive, right? So of course, this has been a problem for a long time. And a few years ago, Scrum.org started working on what they came to call evidence-based management. My wife, who's a nurse practitioner, laughed when she first heard that because she's heavily involved in evidence-based medicine. So it's the same kind of deal, but you're trying to create a scenario where you can collect data that actually helps you drive the right behavior, the right outcomes, right? We don't want metrics that measure the wrong things, that cause bad behavior, that don't help us improve in some way. And so Scrum.org came up with evidence-based management, or EBM. They've used it in a ton of places over the years, and it's been a really good tool to help organizations become better at having the right measures. Cheryl, you're sharing your screen. Could you hit the X on the voting there? So, because we've actually moved on from that.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
There should be in the upper right, there should be an X.
Yeah.
Because I'm still showing
sorry.
you.
Okay. Sorry. It was,
You got it?
yeah, it was covered up by the participant box.
Yeah, and go ahead and close the text. There you go. And then I'm on number 9 in the mural. All right. So evidence-based management is a framework, just like Scrum. Scrum doesn't tell you exactly how to do everything. It gives you a framework and then allows you to determine what practices and what tools and what processes are going to work best for you and your team. Evidence-based management is very similar in that it's a framework. We have we'll talk about some ideas on what the actual metrics might be that you would use, but evidence-based management is not just a list of metrics that Scrum.org thinks everybody should use. It's a framework for helping you figure out what are going to be the best metrics in your situation. So if we go to number 10 in the mural, so evidence-based management recognizes 3 different kinds of goals. The first level is the top level, the strategic goals. This is something important that the organization would like to achieve. This goal is normally big, it's far away, there's a lot of uncertainties in how we're going to get there. Sometimes you'll talk about this being the organization's, strategic goal overall, or it might be at a product level. Then we have intermediate goals. These are achievements that will indicate that we're on the right path to reaching our strategic goal. This might be in Scrum, it might be a product goal, or it might be, sometimes it could be a sprint goal if it's big enough. And then at the bottom, we have intermediate tactical goals. These are critical near-term objectives. And those are typically, in Scrum at least, your sprint goals that you're using to reach those intermediate goals. So you can see where they just kind of build off each other. If we go to number 11, we have 3 different categories of goals. We have activities. These are things that people in the organization do, right? They perform work, they go to meetings, they create code, they create reports, have discussions, what have you. These are all examples of activities. Outputs, these are things the organization produces. So product releases, reports, defect reports, product reviews, those kind of things. And then last, but certainly not least, most importantly, actually, are outcomes. These are desirable things that a customer or user of a product experiences. And that's the key. These outcomes in EBM are customer focused. So if you do something great that only helps the organization, that's fine, but that's an output. If it helps the customer, it's an outcome. So we're going to do a little exercise. This is an exercise we actually do in the class, or a little slimmed down version, but I wanted to give you guys a taste of this. We're working with a company called BuzzBuzz, and they sell electric vehicles. And of course, if you know anything about electric vehicles, one of the biggest challenges is range anxiety. I don't want to run out of juice somewhere. And so they want to update their vehicle software to reduce that range anxiety because they feel that'll help them sell more cars. And so you've been given several goals that BuzzBuzz would like to achieve. And what we're going to do in our groups is we're going to categorize these goals or objectives into activities, outputs, and outcomes. So how many attendees do we have total, Cheryl?
19, that includes you, so 18.
So let's do 4 teams. And so if you'll set up 4 breakout rooms, and I'll open up 4 rooms, 4 team areas here. If everyone will come with me to number 13 on the mural, this will be, if you're in room 1, when Cheryl puts you in your breakout rooms, you will be on team 1. If you're in breakout room 2, you will be on team 2. And what I'm going to ask you to do is grab these stickies here and move them to whether it's an activity. Oops, somebody's already grabbing them. I'm going to move it just to show you what to do. So move it underneath activity, output, or outcome. And so when Cheryl's ready, let me know when you're ready, Cheryl, but we'll put you in your breakout rooms, talk about these stickies, and put them underneath the appropriate category.
Do we have all the same?
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, how was that? Good.
It was collaborative.
Collaborative?
It's harder than it looks.
Yes, it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to uncover the answers. We're going to put you back in your breakout rooms. The answers will be on number 18 in the mural. And we'll put you back in your rooms and have you compare your answers to the EBM answers. And then when you come back, we can talk about any questions or maybe you want to debate on where something's supposed to go. That'd be great too. But Cheryl, do you have the rooms
Yep.
ready to go? I'm going to unhide number 18. Compare your note, compare it to the answers, and come back with some questions.
Recording. This meeting is being recorded.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So very, very typical results here in this exercise. I think it appears most everybody was fine with the things that were listed as activities, but we do have some challenges when we think about outputs versus outcomes. In fact, a lot of folks struggle with that. And what you have to keep in mind is from an EBM perspective, if it doesn't help the customer, it's not an outcome. And it's very common when I teach this class that people argue with me and say, well, if it helps the company, that's a great outcome.
Mhm.
Yeah, it probably is. Like I see some in here, like team 4 went crazy on the outcomes. Reduce company carbon footprint. That I agree. That sounds like a great outcome.
Mhm.
But remember, EBM, the EBM framework, outcomes are customer centric. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it.
But I have a question on that.
Sure, yeah.
So when you're saying about that footprint, you have some customers that will check out the companies to say if they're reducing the carbon footprint. So I think that's where we kind of struggled a little bit,
Yeah.
just because we know some customers look for that.
Yeah, and it becomes something that maybe helps a customer make a decision about who to buy from. But if they're already a customer, it doesn't increase their satisfaction. Well, it might increase their satisfaction, I guess, a little bit. And yeah, like I said, I don't want to spend much time debating.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not arguing with you. I know where you're coming from. We go through this every class, and of course, in class we've got a lot of time to have a more detailed discussion about this. But in the EBM framework, if it's not directly customer centric, if it doesn't increase their happiness, if it doesn't save them money, it's not an outcome. And just wanting to make that clear.
Great.
It doesn't make it any less important if it's an output.
Can I ask one more question about that, Michael?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So are you saying that an organization's strategic goals must always, in this framework, must always be customer focused and nothing internal, like nothing related to efficiency or any of that?
I'm not saying that at all. But the world's most efficient company that doesn't keep their customers happy probably won't last very long, right? So,
But wouldn't it be possible that the strategic goals for the year are a combination of customer focus and
Sure.
maybe efficiency?
Sure it would,
focus?
yep. These aren't, don't take these as being ranked as good, better, and best, right? This is just how EBM defines an activity, how it defines an output, how it defines an outcome. You have to do these activities, right? Train the car dealerships on servicing. You have to do that activity. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? But it doesn't directly increase customer happiness. It might, in the long run, have an influence, but in EBM, this is just the way we've decided to break these apart. And don't think of one being necessarily better than the other. But I will say at the end of the day, if you do a lot of great activities and you do a lot of great output, but the customer outcomes aren't any better, you're not necessarily going to sell any more product. You're not necessarily going to generate any more revenue for your organization. So that's why from a EBM perspective, we want to make sure you're focused on the outcomes. The other issue is that companies today normally are more focused on activities and output. Those things are easier to track, easier to count, easier to measure, and lose sight of is all this work we're doing, is it making a difference with the customer or not? So the idea is you would create these outcome measures, and then you figure out what outputs and activities you think will improve those measures, and then you put them in place, and then you watch the metrics and to see if it's making our outcomes better or worse. If we did something bad.
I was going to add to that, Michael. I think the spirit of EBM is to, and this is the wrong word, but it's late, force us to focus on the customer, because we have such habits of internal. So they want us to be fussy to say, at the end of the day, if we are not doing what we need to for our customer, none of this matters. So they're all important, but at the end of the day, being fussy of looking external compared to internal is the benefit, I think, is what they're trying to get us to with this framework, because it's such bad habits that everything has been internal for so long. Yeah.
So please don't think I'm saying outputs and activities are bad, because they're not. They're fine. But if we're not keeping track of our outcomes and seeing how they're being affected by those activities and outputs, we might not be doing the right thing. I thought I saw a hand up.
Sharon, and then Maru also has a question in chat, so I can read that out when Sharon's got her answer.
Well, I guess it also, I'm just thinking about how tricky it can be, and you're probably going to talk about this, about, how do you measure these things? Because you could argue that, okay, no incidents of an EV driver running out of charge, that in theory, that sounds good. But if I'm a customer, maybe, and I haven't run out of a charge, but I'm still scared that I am going to run out of a charge. And I don't know that no other driver has run out of a charge. I might still have that feeling. So how are you, and then maybe I drop and I tell my friends like, oh, I don't think I shouldn't have bought this car because I'm always anxious about, I think I'm going to run out.
Well, and if their outcome metrics are showing that they're losing customers or their customers are not satisfied, they know they have some work to do. What can they do in the software? So, maybe, and I think that's part of the point of the exercise with BuzzBuzz. If they can create their software in such a way that it's showing you so much about how much farther you can go and where the nearest charging points are and how much energy it would take to get there, that might, in theory, start reducing your anxiety. So if they had a way to measure that anxiety overall, and they put in this new software that does a bunch of those things, and then they look at the metrics, did the anxiety come down? If it did, okay, we were right. Maybe we should do more of that. If it doesn't, back to the drawing board. Okay, what else can we try, right? Because that obviously didn't help reduce the anxiety. We like to think of, especially in Scrum, we talk a lot about empiricism, and we like to think of sprints really as experiments. So the product owner has an idea for something that might help the customer. We build it during the sprint, we deliver it, and then we see if it helped. And if you have the right EBM metrics, you can more easily see if it helped. So does that help? That answer your question?
Yeah,
Great question, Sharon. Thank you.
Okay. Mara's question is, how does EBM interface with OKRs?
However you want them to interface. We don't really talk much about OKRs. It's a little different animal, and there's no reason why they can't be used together. But I'm not an expert on OKRs, so.
Great. It depends.
All right. So let's go back to our mural here, and let me open up. Open up, easy for me to say. It's even later here. I'm in Ohio. I'm on vacation as soon as I'm done here. Let me open up number 19. So this diagram shows you the framework of EBM. So EBM talks about key value areas, and it has those key value areas, there's 4 of them, and it has it divided into 2 major categories. At the top, we have market value. And the key value areas, or KVAs we call them, for market value are on the left. If you look at, see if my laser, can you see my laser pointer? Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't work a couple of weeks ago, so there was a bug. But the first one is unrealized value. What additional potential value could we achieve with our product? So you're looking at gaps in market share. Maybe you have low market share, that sort of thing. But what's the unrealized potential value? If we enhanced our product, did something to our product to make it more attractive to customers, what's that potential upside? And there's a few metrics we'll talk about here in a minute that can help us with that. On the right there, we have current value. So what is the current value that our customers are getting out of our product or services? On the bottom, we have ability to innovate over here on the left. So how effective is the organization at improving value? How good are we at creating new features, new functionality, providing new value to our customer? And then on the lower right, we have time to market. So we have a great idea. We think it's going to create tremendous value for our customer. How long does it take to deliver it? Is it a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a year, right? And so EBM believes that's something really important that we need to not only track, but try to get better at. So let's drill down on these a little more. Let's go to number 20. And I'm first going to look at unrealized value. So click on number 21. So the goal in unrealized value is to maximize the value the organization realizes from a product over time. One of the things we look at is the gap between customer expectations and current experience. We call that the satisfaction gap, which is a big indicator of unrealized value. Some questions to ask in this area are, can any additional money be made in this market for our product? And if so, is it worth the effort and the risk to pursue these additional returns? You might decide that you have plenty of market share, and to get a few more points is going to cost so much more money that it's just not worth it. You have to make that decision about your product. If it's a fairly new product and there's a huge market out there, you're probably going to find ways to invest more and more to try to capture some of that value. But if you're in a mature market and you have a lot of that market, it just might not be worth the investment to try to get a few more points of market share. And then the last one there, yeah, should further investments be made to try to capture that, right? So is it worth the risk? Is it worth the investments in doing so? So let's go to number 22. Can you think of some examples of metrics we might use when we look at unrealized value? We already gave you one, satisfaction gap. Is there anything else you can think of? If we're gonna calculate our unrealized value, what else might we have to have?
Oops.
Yeah, unaddressed pain points might be good. Total market value. Yeah, what is the total market value, and what is our current or market value, and what is our current share of that market value, right? Now, days since last product release, that's a great one, but it actually goes somewhere else. So whoever wrote that sticky, hang on to it. We're gonna actually put that one somewhere else. Let's look at number 23. So current value. Now, you might have some metrics. Keep in mind, there might be some metrics you'll use in more than one area too. So don't be afraid to use them more than once. But here we're looking at the current value that the organization delivers to their customers and stakeholders. Questions in this area include, how happy are our customers today? Is their happiness improving or declining? We're also going to want to look at employee satisfaction. The employees are the ones delivering our product. And so they're going to have a huge impact on current value. And then the other major stakeholder, our investors and stakeholders, is their happiness improving or declining? So if we go to number 24, some examples over here might be what? Yeah, customer sat, yeah. Employee satisfaction, yeah. I think that's what you're getting ready to type. Realized savings for customers, yeah.
Would employee retention be one?
Might be, yeah. It might be things like maybe revenue per employee. You might look at customer usage index. You know, how much of our product is our customer using? I'll go ahead and type that one in.
where would we look for, I don't know if where it fits in this, but look, if you created underutilized features,
Mhm.
how do you measure things like that where you maybe overdeveloped a product? A software
Well, you'd have
product?
to have some way in your product to get data about which parts of the product are being used by our customers. A lot of web and mobile apps can do that.
Where does that fit in this? It probably doesn't fit on this board, but
Yeah, it would be under current value.
okay.
Yep, that's what customer usage index is.
And then tech debt, things like that.
Tech debt would probably go would probably go under organizational capability.
Okay, yeah. That makes
So let's take a look at those. If we go to number 25, ability to innovate. So this is the goal here is to maximize the organization's ability to deliver new capabilities and innovative solutions. So the questions here are around what prevents the organization from delivering new value. I think that might be a good one for tech debt. And what prevents customers or users from benefiting from what we're doing or these new innovations. So some examples, tech debt's a good one.
Mhm.
Defects, defect trends.
Mhm.
If somebody wants to create some stickies while we're talking, that'd be very helpful. Another one that may not be obvious, but is a real good one is something we call on product index. So what percentage of your developer's time in a given day, week, month is actually spent working on the product? I run into team after team where they've got people that are supposed to be working on product A, but half the day they're answering questions, looking at, helping people with other projects, and they're really only spending 50% of their time working on the product. If we're trying as an organization, if our goal is to create more new features, then we got to figure out a way to get folks to spend more of their time working on the product, right?
Yeah, that context switching is a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you could even track the time spent context switching.
Yeah, it's a time suck.
Yeah. All right, let's go to number 27. The last KVA is time to market. So here we're trying to minimize the amount of time it takes for an organization to deliver value. And so questions here include, how fast can an organization learn from new experiments? How fast can you learn from new information and adapt? And how fast can we deliver new value to customers? So if we go to number 28, what are some of the examples that we might have there? Well, DevOps automation is definitely going to help us do that. Don't know if that's something we can measure, but there's probably some measurements around that. Yeah, test-driven development is going to help us. Some of the metrics we might want to look at are things like lead time. Some organizations will use the term concept to cash. So somebody has a great idea today. How long does it take us to get that great idea in the customer's hands? Most companies are shocked to find out what that lead time really is, because it's usually pretty bad and they just don't know it because they haven't been tracking it. Release frequency could be a one you'd want to track. So maybe right now you're only releasing every couple of months. Is there something we can do to get that down to every 6 weeks, every month? every 2 weeks? Do we eventually get to a place where we can continuously deploy? If we have all this DevOps automation and test-driven development and some of the other things that are on here. All right, well, that was obviously a very quick overview of EBM. I got a couple more slides here to show you, but before I do that, do you have any particular questions that maybe we didn't answer?
Yeah, I had one in the chat.
Okay.
How does value relate to output and outcomes? Is that a combination of both? Or how does that fit?
Well, outcomes, we are trying to measure in some way the value that we're delivering to the customer. The activities and outputs that we have should in some way support our ability to provide those better outcomes. And as we talked about earlier, as Chris pointed out very elegantly, it's very easy for us to focus on activities and outputs. How many lines of code are we writing? You know, how many story points are we getting done? Those kind of things. And those are measures of, really just measures of us being busy. They don't really tell us if any of the work we did was of any value to the customer. We like to think it was, right? I mean, none of us gets up in the morning and says, hey, I'm going to work my butt off for 8 hours and get a lot done, and the customer doesn't care. I mean, you know, that's not going to get anybody up in the morning, right? And so ideally, you've got some outcome metrics that even the developers are aware of. You share those things in your sprint reviews or other meetings that you have with stakeholders, and do whatever you can to tie back to make sure that the people doing the work understand that when we build out these set of stories or whatever it is, you know, we're calling them, that the intention is to increase our customer satisfaction or increase our time to market or get, you know, maybe do something to make our customers happier, or maybe they make more money, so we make more money, that sort of thing. It provides some kind of value. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to say in EBM is those are really what matter. Activities and outputs are important, but if they don't provide good outcomes, then they might have not been the best use of our time, right? So if you want to learn more, if you go to number 29, all this stuff is in the EBM guide. It's freely available on the scrum.org website. If you double click on that, double click on that evidence-based management guide picture there, it'll take you right to it on the scrum.org website. It's not very long. It's only 10 or 12 pages, I believe, if that many. And it'll give you a good overview of what evidence-based management is. The next link there is, what did I put there? Oh yeah, it's an overview on their website of what evidence-based management is. And then there's a link there to, classes if you're really interested. The EBM class is a one-day workshop, so it's not a big time sink, but we dive into each of these areas in a lot of detail. We do some scenarios. We give you practice in figuring out what are good outcome metrics, and how would you go about measuring those and getting use out of those.
That's what I was going to ask. Any examples are super helpful, because to remap how we think is going to be challenging.
Yeah.
So that's awesome to have examples then to go and try and, like you say, experiment with. That's huge.
Yeah.
It is going to be a hard habit to break, but one that I am really excited that we're focused on.
Yeah, and then number 30 there, just some more information about me. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, I'm happy to do that. I have a website. I'm also a home brewer, so that's why my website is Agile Homebrew. And, if you're interested in any of those topics below, there's a books I wrote years ago. So, but thanks for all your time and participation, Cheryl. I think we're ready to wrap it up. I can stick around for questions, or if anybody has anything they'd like to.
I was going to just ask you, Mike, when leaders go through this and so on, does it take them, I mean, to remap, like I say, do they have aha moments that are encouraging to see that the trend's changing?
Yeah, it does move the needle. What does a better job of moving the needle with leaders is the Professional Agile Leaders Leadership Essentials class. That class is designed, that's a 2-day class, to help leaders make that mind shift, right? We mention EBM in that class. We don't do a whole lot more than what we've done here in the class. We expose them to it, but we spend most of those 2 days talking to them about how if they're using a command and control mindset, a industrial age mindset to manage knowledge workers doing complex work, they're not likely to have good outcomes. And so as an Agile leader, here's the things we think you ought to be doing differently. And we put them through exercises and show them a bunch of research and talk about it. And they don't all necessarily love everything they hear because they've been working a certain way for 15, 20, 25 years, and now they've got to change that. So we have some very challenging conversations sometimes, but that class is designed to make that mindset shift. And then once that's happened, okay, if you're really excited about EVM, come back for a 1-day workshop and we'll help you walk through that. So most of that would happen in the PAL-E class. Great question. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, because I'm always for the aha moment. So yeah.
I love the PAL-E class. It's great to get leaders in the room. They really challenge you, and they're usually pretty opinionated. But the vast majority, as we go through it, they get it, right?
That actually should be a measure that we should add on one of the stickies. How many aha moments can you give your customers in their cars? Every day, new aha. Somebody I was talking today to somebody who's one of the main figures of software engineering, Tom Gibb, and he was telling me about he's studying the mask methods, and he was telling me about how many features they hid in the car through voice command that nobody knows about. They're nowhere to see on the manuals that people discover by coincidence, and then it goes viral because people just, wow, oh, look at this, it's awesome. And then they film themselves and they put it on social media. And nobody knows how many of these secret features are there. It's just like a hunt.
Yeah.
These guys are on a different level in terms of value.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thanks everyone. I think I'm good. Any last things, Cheryl, for me, or?
Hey, enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
the
you, Michael.
opportunity. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Yes, thank you.